Hey, health junkies! It's time for The Health Fix. Join your host, Dr. Janine Krause, as she gives you a dose of what you need to know and do right now to take control of your health from the inside out, to rebel against aging, look damn good, fight stress, and laugh every day.
Hello there, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause. Today's episode is going to be all about 9 movements everyone should be able to do for optimal health. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, why 9 movements? Well, these 9 movements come from a certificate that I just earned in terms of the Champion Performance Specialist Certificate. This is a training that was sponsored by Mike Reinold. He is a physical therapy guru. He is a physical therapist and a personal trainer out in Boston, Massachusetts, and he is the one who talked all about these 9 movements. And I really do think that these 9 movements are key for helping you maintain your mobility as you age, but also for longevity. And the reason being, these are all key functional movements that we need to do on a daily basis to maintain our independence as we get older. And the better we are at these things, the less we're going to need help from other folks as we get older. Now, you might be in your 30s right now thinking, well, why does this even apply to me? Well, right now is a great time to train yourself to do these movements really well so that when you get older, you're like a master of these movements. Now, what else sparked me thinking about this? Well, my dad is 82 years old right now, and he's in pretty good shape. He moves every single day, works out in his garage. He's constantly lifting heavy things. He's constantly pushing things, moving things, hinging, squatting, lunging, all kinds of crazy stuff. And to watch him move, it's pretty impressive. He's quite mobile. And I really, truly do believe that that is what has kept him going all this time compared to his friends that don't move as much. I can tell who sits around and doesn't do much physically when they come into my office, and I can also see it, of course, on the street. And really, those who move better do better. It's kind of the same concept. You might see someone who goes into retirement, and you notice that they're not moving as much, and their health starts to decline. Those are the folks that you need to get a hold of and go, okay, can you do these 9 movements? But also for yourself, and making sure that you can do these 9 movements. So let's just get down to business. What are these 9 movements? First one is overhead reach. Now, that might sound strange. You might think to yourself, well, I can reach my arms up. Okay, can you do it evenly? So I want you right now, wherever you are. Of course, if you're driving, don't do this. That's not safe. But I want you to take your thumbs out, and I want to put those thumbs up. And then what I want you to do is raise your arms up overhead, just straight up with your thumbs up. And do this looking in a mirror, if you can. And see if your arms go up evenly. Meaning, does one arm come out to the side? Do they go up equally? Do they go up equally in terms of extension? So if you can't reach over your head, now you're going to have difficulty taking things off shelves. You're going to have difficulty taking and moving things up above you. This is a problem, right? You need to be able to do these as you get older. And so if right now you're not having problems with these motions, you want to make sure that you're still doing these motions. Because I think as we get older too, we start to not do what we used to do when we were younger. I know that I have now just started to play like I was 4 years old again, with crawling around chasing my dogs and trying to walk on my hands and trying to do handstands. Now, you may think that that's a little bit excessive, and that's okay. It's just the concept of if you don't do something, you're going to lose something, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. And in the case of mobility, that is something that is huge. And that's why, of course, I am here to help you maintain your independence as you get older. And you should be thinking about it in your 30s. It's really important. Now, we've got the overhead reach. And by the way, I'm going to have all of this in video format on my website at drjkrausend.com. I'm also going to put it up on Facebook. It's my Q Vitality Studio, that's my office Facebook, and it'll also be the Dr. Janine Krause Facebook page. So if you're looking for all 9 of these videos, because I know that it's kind of weird for me to mention it and then not have a video to go with it. So drjkrausend.com or Dr. Janine Krause on Facebook or Q Vitality Studio on Facebook. You're going to see the videos there. Now, of course, in my video, I went through everything and then forgot the lateral lunge. So there is a supplemental video for the lateral lunge. Now, I just talked about overhead reach. The next one's hinge. And this is being able to bend forward and try to aim to touch your toes, touch your shins, touch your ankles, and pick something up and come back up. I'm shocked at how many people are not able to hinge properly and often will bend their knees because their hamstrings might be too tight or just move really weirdly to bend over. I actually myself found that I don't push my butt out as far as I could with hinging. And so I have a video for you for that, and there's also going to be some on my Facebook page too to help support this. But being able to hinge properly helps us to prevent having issues with our hamstrings, helps us to not have issues with back pain. It's really important to understand the hinge. And so if you're someone out there right now thinking, okay, I can't bend over and touch my toes, that's okay. You don't have to be flexible. You just have to be able to hinge properly. Now, along with the hinge comes the squat. A lot of people are not great at squatting, and that's okay. You know what? You have time to be able to work with a squat. You could do an assisted squat, meaning that you can hold on to something and go down into a squat. You could work on chair squats, meaning sit down, get back up, sit down, get back up. Speaking of that, I don't know how many people I see in my office who are unable to get out of a chair without pushing themselves up with their arms. Now, that's fine and dandy, meaning your arms can do a great push motion, but your legs should be stronger than your arms. Your legs are your pillars. They burn more calories. They're your foundation. You want your legs so much stronger than your arms, and a squat is the way to do it. If you look at some of the Asian countries with folks that live the longest, these are the folks that sit around in a squat versus in a chair. And I challenge myself regularly to squat at least 30 minutes throughout the day. Now, granted, I have to sit with patients. It's kind of awkward to squat and talk to patients. However, I do that sometimes. If I have someone on my acupuncture table, I can lunge and squat. But point being is you want to channel your inner 5-year-old a little bit and start doing movements that you stopped doing as soon as you got in kindergarten, stuck behind a desk. Now, stepping up and stepping down. Now, of course, a lot of us have to do stairs, so we understand that we can step. But that step's not a huge step. I recommend playing with bigger steps or working on your balance or having weight in your hands, like a dumbbell, to go up and down a step and see how that feels. Carrying heavy loads definitely contributes to longevity because the more that you can carry heavier things for longer time frames, that's good work for your body. Something to think about there. But really working on stepping up and stepping down. And I do a demo in my video that shows you how that looks to see how your mobility is with that. And speaking of which, I'm going through these 9 motions and talking about them, but I do highly recommend that if you want to move ideally for life and you want to move optimally and you want to be healthy and mobile for your entire life, you want to have someone take a look at how you move and then take that information and help you to format a workout program that helps to strengthen you in all of your deficits with your 9 movements that I'm talking about right now. It'll go a long way because it'll help you to be a better athlete. It'll help you to be stronger just in everyday life and help reduce pain. Now, as I went through this certificate training for the Champion Performance Specialist, I learned how to assess all 9 of these motions. And so if you are in the Tacoma area, I can do a movement assessment for you. Now, if you're not in the Tacoma area, there is a website that you can use to find folks who are trained as Champion Performance Specialists, and I will let you know how to do that at my website at drjkrausnd.com. So head on over to the podcast notes for episode 132. And the other way to look for folks that can assess your movement would be going to someone who's been trained in functional movement assessment. And I have links to that, and I will put those links in my podcast notes for you as well, because there are a couple different groups out there in terms of functional movement assessment that I recommend patients to go see in particular because I know they're going to get the job done right. Now, why am I not recommending just a regular old PT to do a functional movement assessment? Well, unfortunately, in the PT world, it's not as common that folks are trained to think about a full functional movement assessment. They are trained more to work on specific injuries and rehab of those injuries versus the complete movement assessment, which sounds weird. They do learn it, but I think that folks that have taken the specific trainings, advanced trainings in movement, are more suited to help you for movement optimally throughout life versus injury movement assessments. So I guess what I'm saying here is I'm not saying that PTs are not qualified. They definitely are. And if they're offering functional movement assessments for anybody who wants optimal movement and wants to work on their longevity, then sure, check these folks out. But if they are more of an injury-based type of physical therapy clinic, then not worth it. Find someone who's working on longevity health and optimal health. So off that soapbox. Now let's talk about things here. I went through overhead reach, which is number 1, hinge movement, which is number 2, squat movement, which is number 3, step movement, number 4. Let's go to the forward lunge. So forward lunge, taking one leg out in front of you, and so that one's going to go in front, and your back leg is going to have your knee touch the ground in a lunge motion. Now, I'm not talking about a walking lunge. I'm just talking about standing up and performing a lunge and coming back up from that lunge and staying in place. Now, when's the last time you did that? Can you do that without having to hold on to something? If you can do it on your own, that means your balance is pretty good. Now, if you need to hold on to something, that means you got some work to do. Now, what about can you do a forward lunge with some weight in your hands? How does that go? So the idea here is taking these motions from the basics to adding a little weight or adding a little bit of a balance issue. So for example, if you're really good at squats and you're like, I got the squat down, what else can I do? Of course, you can add more weight, barbell weight, things of that nature, or you can put yourself on something like a Bosu ball that creates an imbalance. And so this is a nice connection to your brain to figure out how to balance you while you're doing a squat motion. Now, what would this be useful for? It's really great for neuromuscular education, meaning this is great for training your brain and your proprioceptors, so the nerves that determine where you are in space, how to balance. Maybe you like paddleboarding and a big wave comes along and you need to squat down to ride out that wave. Maybe you want to surf. I don't know. These are useful things for the future. I would never tell someone not to start surfing at 50 years of age. Why not? I mean, you got to live it up. And so anyway, these motions are important. And so it's just a way to think of it. So the forward lunge, if you can do that easily on your own, not wobbly, knees not coming in, you're not making any compensations for that lunge. And I do highly recommend watch yourself in the mirror. If it looks like you're doing things good and you can get the pass by someone who's doing your movement assessment, then heck, add some weight, add some balance things. You can do forward lunges with 2 little balance discs underneath your feet and add a little wobble to it. It's fun. Now, the other lunge is a lateral lunge. So being able to step out to the side and lunge. Now, a lot of us don't think about this one. This one's great for anyone who skis, anyone who is playing basketball, anyone who needs to be able to move left to right and have a really good foundation doing so. I think a lot of people get injured skiing because they're not doing this lateral lunge-based movement. A lot of us are stuck in movements that take us forward and backward, but we forget to go sideways. I think this happens so commonly as adults. We don't play anymore to jump to the side, jump, in a circle, do 180 jumps, 360 jumps. It's not common anymore. We've lost the art of play, and we really do need to bring that back so we can help with our mobility. But a lateral lunge is something that perhaps you might need some assistance to do it, holding onto a chair or holding onto like a TRX row type of band and working with your lateral lunge side to side. Now, if you're okay with it, doing it side to side with body weight, add some weight to it. Try it out. See how it goes. You could even put your leg out, the one that you're not bearing the weight on. That leg could go out, and the one that you're bearing the weight on, you can actually do on a balance board, a wobble board. It's really crazy in advance, but something to think about. Now, I know I kind of said that backwards. The weight-bearing leg, the one that you are actually lunging on, is the one that you would do the wobble on. But something to think about. I do have the videos on this because I know it's kind of abstract to talk through it in a podcast. So drjkrausend.com for the videos if you're getting frustrated with me because you want the visual. Now, the next movements are a combination because I like to think of them together in terms of pushing forward and pulling backwards. I really do think that push-ups are important. If you haven't done a push-up in a while, there's a thing called a wall push-up. That's great to get yourself back into feeling the push motion. The opposite of a push motion is a pull motion, which you can do with a dumbbell, and you can do what's known as a dumbbell row, or you could even do something called a TRX row, meaning you could get a type of band device that you have those little grips on it, and you can row, pull yourself towards it. With that, you could do ring rows. And so a lot of times at gyms, you'll see rings hanging down. You can do rows with that. So you lower yourself down, kind of in a plank, opposite of a plank position, and grab onto those rings and pull yourself up to those rings. That would be a ring row. And this is a pull type of motion. Another motion that I like in terms of a pull is a sled. And gyms will have those kind of things that you can pull a sled, but think about it even just in general. Do you have a sled that you use when it snows for your kids or grandkids, or maybe you as yourself still have one? I totally still have a sled. Throw some logs in it, throw some weights in it, and pull it around the yard. That is a pull motion. It's a really cool way to get a workout. A lot of people do it themselves in terms of pull motions with old tires that are tied to ropes. Sounds kind of prehistoric and caveman or strongman but it's fun to pull these things around. My other favorite push and pull motion is a swing. You can go over to your local playground, and what are you doing on that swing? You are pushing and pulling. And especially if you have someone that's on the swing and you're pushing them, that's a great push motion. Or if you're on it yourself, you're pull and push, pull and push. And in life, sometimes we have to push boxes from one area to the other. It would be preferred to pick them up and move them. But, there's these motions that are involved in regular everyday life. And I think push and pull motions are absolutely huge. I think a lot of us do a lot of push. Our pec muscles might be stronger than our posterior back muscles. And that's why we have a lot of pain too, because of our poor posture. And so I do believe that a lot of people should be focusing on more pull motions. So get out that old sled that's collecting dust because you haven't been out sledding for a while. Pull that sucker around your backyard with some logs in it or bricks in it or weights. Throw a 10-pound dumbbell in there that's also collecting dust. You know what I'm talking about. Get your exercise on. Have some fun. Throw the dog in there. Throw a kid in there. Anyway, now let's talk about the last motion that I find really useful and quite possibly one of the most important ones as well, rotation. And by that I mean, I want you, if you can right now in front of a mirror, cross your arms over each other, and I want you to keep your feet planted forward and your hips planted forward and turn, literally rotate your thoracic spine, so your middle of your back, and turn to the left, turn to the right, and see how far you can turn. Is it equal each way? Do you feel restricted? Rotation is a big deal. If our spine doesn't rotate well, it's going to lock up our hips, it's going to lock up our neck, we're going to have pain. The other side of this is bending to the left, to the right. So keep those arms crossed over your shoulders and bend to the left, bend to the right. Can you bend equally left and right? What happens? What about if you bend forward and you extend? So flexion, extension of the spine. How's that feel? Do you feel restricted in any of those motions? Unfortunately, due to our curved tech necks and tech chests, we're rotated forwards. Our shoulders are anteriorly rotated. We're kind of hunching over. A lot of times being hunched over causes neck pain and back pain due to our thoracic spine, so our spine that's in the ribcage area, not moving well. So if you notice that you can't rotate left or right equally, or it feels locked up, I'm going to highly recommend doing a couple of really cool exercises to help with your rotation and extension and flexion of your thoracic spine. In particular, One of them is my old favorite, which is a total physical therapy move. It's called the dead bug. So you're laying on your back, and you can put your arms and legs straight up. So literally pretend you are a dead bug. What you're going to do is you're going to drop one leg and one arm at the same time and then bring them back up. You want to make sure it's the opposite leg and the opposite arm. Your head's neutral and you're working on keeping your core nice and tight. Now, these types of exercises, if you've never done them before, it requires a little bit of effort. One of the things I found with a dead bug to help me when I didn't have anyone else around is to use a stability ball. So this is an exercise ball. And so put your arms and legs straight up and put the stability ball in between the arms and legs. So you're holding the stability up with your arms and legs straight up like a dead bug. And then you're taking your opposite arm and opposite leg. So you would take like your right arm and your left leg and lower them and raise them back up. When you lower them and you raise them back up, what you're doing with the opposite arm and leg is you are contracting, holding that stability ball in place so it doesn't drop. And that will put you into a good thoracic cage and low back spine position. So that's one of them. The other one's bird dog. So it's kind of the opposite of a dead bug, if you will. So this time you're on your hands and knees and you've got one arm and one leg out straight from each other. And you're holding that arm and leg with good form, which you'll have to watch a video for good form because you want to not have your butt too high, your back too arched. You want your back flat in this case. And in fact, really working on when you have your one arm out and your opposite, so let's say right arm out and your left leg out, you're almost wanting to contract your abdomen, but keep your right arm and your left leg out straight at the same time while contracting your abdomen. It's a pretty good workout, but it also helps with that rotation issue. The other side of this is getting out of a foam roller and rolling over, so kind of arching your back. So you put the foam roller perpendicular to you and you're arching over it. There's great videos on this to help with your thoracic mobility that way. The other favorite of mine for helping with rotation of my thoracic cage is to be on my hands and knees and take one of my arms and take my hand and put it on my ear and take my elbow and rotate it upwards to the sky. And so this takes some getting used to. There's videos for this. It's thoracic rotation exercises, and I will include all of this on my website at drjkrausend.com for you to get a better sense of things. Now, really, the concept of me going through all of this is just to get you to think about your motions. And do you have any troubles with reaching overhead? Do you have any troubles with hinging? Do you have any troubles with squatting? What about stepping? What about stepping up higher? Like maybe you have some rocks that you need to step up and it's like 20 inches, 24 inches higher. And can you do it? Can you step up with one leg and lift yourself all the way up? Or do you need to kind of crawl over it? Think about these things. To have good leg strength, you can step up on a higher step and lift yourself all the way up without any assistance. That's ideal. That's what you want. So look around your town, see if there's some concrete areas that are good tall steps. We have a great place here in Tacoma called the Stadium Bowl, which is a famous Stadium High School that has this football field with these huge steps in it for people to sit. Really, the whole area is a concrete bowl. It was famous in the movie 10 Things I Hate About You with Heath Ledger. In fact, he dances on these steps that everyone works out on. So fun trivia there. But the idea is if you have an area like that where there's big steps, this is something to play with. Or if there's like a ball field around or a baseball field and there's those aluminum steps, try seeing if you can step up onto the one step without any assistance. And of course, have a friend with you so you don't get hurt. Don't want anyone to get hurt here, but work on that. And if once that gets easy, then add some weights to that. So stepping is a big deal. Lunging is also a really big deal. We forget how to do these things. Lateral lunges as well. The push and pull, like I mentioned before, play with it. A lot of us are familiar with push-ups, and those are one aspect of it, but you can do all kinds of different push motions just to help yourself to get familiar with pushing and pulling, like I said, the sled. One of my favorites if you're not into the dumbbell rows or renegade rows or any of those code words for rowing, TRX rowing. And then rotation. This one's a big one because a lot of people are stuck in rotated forward shoulders that just don't move. And guess what? That's causing you pain. If you can get your rib cage moving, you can get yourself out of neck pain, chronic headaches, low back pain. It is a big, big deal. So I was just hoping by shedding a little light on these motions and getting you to think about these motions, if you can do them, if you can't. If you can't do certain things, that's okay. It's just a warning sign that it's time to get some help and get these hammered down so that you can master all these 9 movements and keep mastering them and keep working on them as you get older. Now, I don't want you to keep doing the same exercises over and over again. Start with where you're at right now, whether it's body weight or weighted, and then move to the balance part, the neuromuscular connection. Because a lot of us at this point, if we've been working out for years, our bodies need a little bit more of a challenge. And so give it that challenge. Don't keep doing the same things, the same workouts day in, day out. Play with it a little bit. Give yourself challenges. It's important. Go over to YouTube and see what some of the folks are doing on YouTube in terms of advanced modifications for certain lifts. It's fun. So take a look at these. Head over to my website at drjkrausend.com or go over to my Facebook, Dr. Janine Kraus, or Q Vitality Studio. Either one is going to have my videos and my motions of all 9 of these so that you can see what I'm talking about and then build on it from there. And if you're looking for some specific help with these motions, I'm going to have a list of where to find champion performance specialists folks, so folks who are trained in that department like me, and where you can find functional movement assessment folks as well. And of course, like I said, you can always call your local physical therapy offices and ask if they offer functional movement assessments, because that is another way to know, are you able to do these 9 motions and what you need to work on and how to challenge yourself from there on out. Alrighty, everybody, you have survived another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Kraus. Get out there and move well so that you can contribute to your longevity and have optimal movement for life. Have a great day, whatever you're doing. Hey everybody, Dr. Janine Kraus here. If you liked what you heard today, then head over to drjkrausend.com to find my free resources and information to know when I post something new that's juicy that you might want to check out. Plus, head over to where you get your podcasts and like, subscribe, and write a review to help get the word out about me and help others at the same time to find me. It really does help, and I really appreciate all of your reviews.